This show is for informational purposes only. In view of the complex nature of health and disease, it is only recommended that you change your current treatments or healthcare practice with the direct assistance of a health professional. You can contact Dr. Dale if you desire to achieve true health. Call his office at 931-591-2010.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Dr. Dale, I'm the Wild Doc. I'm excited about this subject, and this is going to be, again, a conversation. I look forward to answering questions for the audience here. But our subject today we are going to start off with is the recent news local here to Tennessee is District Attorney marijuana laced with fentanyl is in Tennessee. Now this is a very serious subject. I do thank the fact that our district attorney has come forward and warned the public about this dangerous drug combination. Now the reality is I want to talk about the true dangers between these medications or between these drugs. You could call marijuana now a medication, but rather it's a plant, and it's medicinal, it's beneficial. There are huge benefits to it, and the fact is, and the fact remains, that so far no one's dying from marijuana alone. But people are dying from fentanyl. And they are dying from fentanyl when our black market drug dealers are placing a prescription drug, a FDA approved drug that is very deadly. Again, fentanyl is one of the most deadly medications there is. Literally, they are saying it's probably the most deadly medication out there on the market. One of the surprising things that I found was in the peer-reviewed medical literature right here, fentanyl patch fatalities. We all have a role in prevention. So again, I am thankful for the district attorney in Tennessee bringing this information forward, making sure that people out there who choose to smoke marijuana or choose to use marijuana, that because it is a black market product right now, it is sold on the black market, you may be getting it from people who you can't necessarily trust. But then you have to recognize the fact, as a society, we can't trust the pharmaceutical industry that lies time and time to the FDA. They lied about opioids in general. They've lied time and time to the American people. All right, they lied about the addictive properties of their opioids, including fentanyl. They got FDA approval off of lies. That's a fact. We know that. So we are standing here right now faced with a serious situation where there are more. We now have people who want to smoke marijuana. We now have people who are actually could die as a result of smoking marijuana, not because of marijuana, but because of fentanyl that is in that marijuana. So again, if you want to read this, but I want to read this one real quickly for you. Fentanyl patch fatalities, so this took me into the realm of thinking about it is because they're saying that the dangerous drug combination is fentanyl, truly a dangerous drug, or fentanyl marijuana, and it seems to me the article plays in ways too heavily against marijuana than it should, and they should be bringing out the reality that fentanyl is a very, 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 very dangerous medication here. The Institute of Safe Medication Practices learned about another child who died after gaining access to transdermal fentanyl patch. This time it was a 15-month-old boy who had been cuddling. And this little boy didn't die from fentanyl because it found it in the medicine cabinet. No, the way this child gained access, according to this case series and study on fentanyl, the patch, this time it was a 15-month-old boy who had been cuddling with his mother, sleeping on her chest as they both took a nap. The boy's mother had been wearing a fentanyl patch on her chest to treat pain associated with multiple sclerosis, which is crazy to me because if you look at the use of cannabis, it has been found to encourage the regrowth of nerve cells, so there is potential for treatment of MS with cannabinoids, with the plant, the medicinal plant cannabis. So you're looking at this as a possible opportunity to have saved this 15-month-old boy's life had the mother been utilizing cannabis, which normally these drugs like fentanyl, opioids, are prescribed because of the significant pain related with neuropathy, nerve pain, those things, which in studies on pain, we find that cannabis is very, very effective at lowering or reducing or eliminating the pain from neuropathy. So we're going to be discussing that. I appreciate everybody. Make sure that you share this information with people. We need to get people, because this is a subject that needs to have a serious discussion around it, because I've got here in front of me, I just copied and pasted, took Andy Holt, marijuana legislation. He posted on Facebook, which I like Andy Holt in some ways. I've seen a couple things of actions he's taken that I agree with. He seems to be a Christian at heart, so I like that about him. He doesn't like traffic cameras, so I like that about him. But so I can agree with certain actions. Now, the one he's taking a stance against the legalization of marijuana, I kind of disagree with. And he takes an article from Marijuana Devastated Colorado, Don't Legalize It Nationally. And this comes from Jeff Hunt, opinion coordinator. And this is actually Jeff Hunt is a vice president of public policy at Colorado Christian University. What I would want to do is quickly just challenge Andy Holt as well as Jeff Hunt and ask them to seek out the information, since they're both Christian. Jeff Hunt leading and being a head of a Colorado Christian University. I would ask him, as I'm a Christian, I can't find in the Bible where it says that man should reign over another man and actually deny him something that God created. So if they can find that in the Bible for me, then they could stand on Christian moral values to say that, okay, then governments deserve to reign over human beings and not allow them to actually partake in or use a plant created by God. So, and the reality is we don't have, I was talking to another state representative here recently, and I was just talking about medical cannabis or industrial hemp and just having a discussion, a quality discussion with him. This man is Jay Reedy. He grows industrial hemp. He is behind better use of that plant and utilizing it for the medicinal purposes and the industrial purposes. So it's a very versatile plant. But the reality is here, we need to have a serious conversation about our cultural norms and the way our culture right now acts. Our nation is significantly divided in many levels, whether it be in racism and medicine and health. And just so many things are dividing us, whether you want to talk about Democratic to Republican, from religions. We need to become united again. And we need to become united, I believe, under one God. But that's me, okay? Now, I'm going to love my brothers and sisters no matter what they believe, what they practice, what they do. I even love the person who, made fentanyl, and I love the person. I want better for the person who lied to the FDA about the safety of opioids. But I want them to confess for those sins, and I want them to turn away from that harmful, sinful action of lying about the safety of drugs to the American people and to doctors, and do the right thing so that we can change our societies, change our culture, and start serving one another and do better by one another. If we were all here to do what Christ did, I believe we would have a much better nation, because Christ was here to serve. He didn't care who they were, what they've done in their past, what actions they were doing. He wanted to serve everyone. He was here to serve, and we would just take upon that. And I don't care if you believe in Christ or not, if we just take a moral and ethical stance to say, you know what, I'm going to do my best to do a kind deed to someone today, someone this evening. Right now, you still have time in this day to do something good for one another. If we would just start serving one another, we would change this entire country. But here's the reality. Yes, we have a drug issue, but we have an overconsumption issue. You could talk about alcohol, you could talk about marijuana and smoking pot, you could talk about the opioid crisis, but the reality is everyone's understood or thought about the dangerous side effects or risks of smoking marijuana, but we are lied to as a country, as a culture, as medical physicians. People were blatantly lied to about the serious risks of drugs. And when a prescription pad says take this pill, people will take that pill with the assumption that it's going to be very, very safe for them, that it's going to be effective. So we need to change that understanding in people so that people can see we need to know that drug companies have been lying to us, folks. All right, so let's go through some of these articles. I appreciate everybody who's already tuned in. Veronica, thank you for tuning in from Idaho. I love snow skiing out in Idaho. It's beautiful out there. I don't know if you've ever been out to Brundage. Love that place. Did some backcountry snowboarding out there. Cookie, always, I love seeing you online and tuning in. Lou, I appreciate you. Grow your own. Lou, you hit it on. Lou, thank you, sir. You hit that nail on the head right there. Fentanyl maker donates. Well, that was the next article. You could see it in one of the other articles. So I got them all in front of me. Sorry, I got a little crunched on time here today. I was out working on my box gardens, getting my lettuces and kale and everything for my fall gardens planted and hanging out with my son. So here is again, we've got this. So fentanyl or marijuana laced with fentanyl. We need to understand that if people had the opportunity to grow their own, they'd know exactly what was in it. It's simple as that. The fact that we have a plant that is not deadly. All right, there are times where people could use it for the wrong reasons and get high on it. You could argue there's a potential for somebody to wreck a car, but the reality is alcohol causes way more car accidents than marijuana ever has. If we are sitting here with a fentanyl patch, a pain patch, that a mother wearing a pain patch can't cuddle with her 15-month-old child, I'll tell you what, that's far more dangerous than marijuana ever has been. Marijuana had the potential to help that woman with her pain with MS, as well as help her heal from her MS because of the medicinal properties and medicinal benefits from cannabis. Now, I'll tell you from my professional opinion, from my personal opinion, I believe that THC and getting high, I'm not going to tell somebody if they're allowed to drink or they're not allowed to drink. I'm not even going to tell somebody that they're allowed to or not allowed to take an opioid. I'm not here to reign over somebody else's life and tell them what they can and can't do. But I do completely disagree, and I think we can as a society, that we're not going to allow people to lie to someone. So I will not allow that to happen, okay? So that's where I cross the line. You can do with, if it doesn't harm anyone else, if it could potentially, I'm going to encourage you not to do something that would harm yourself, but I'm not going to sit there and say that I can control your actions. I'm going to encourage you, I'm going to help you, I want to show you the truth, I want to show you what would be better ways to help medicate yourself. If you're in a situation where you're depressed and you feel like you have to change your mindset, I'm not going to be the one that tells you you're not allowed to change your mindset with a drug. I'm going to encourage you not to, and I'm going to encourage you and try and serve you and help you identify the underlying causes of that depression or that anxiety or that health problem. I'm going to help you understand the underlying causes so that you can heal and recover. If you can heal and recover, then we don't need to alter our mindset. But again, it's not my place to say whether you can or can't. Let's just get that out there in the open. But here's the reality. Fentanyl can kill somebody, can kill a child, and has killed children simply by a mom cuddling with her baby. I got that one. Where did I put that other one at? Give me 1 second, folks. Pull up this other article. All right, so here are the highlights I have from the district attorney. Marijuana laced with fentanyl is in Tennessee. DA Matthew Stowe told News 2 the drug is here in Tennessee and he can't warn people fast enough. I would agree with that. Fentanyl is a very, very dangerous medication. Let's warn people of that. Fentanyl is a powerful synthetic opioid used in medical settings to treat chronic pain. On the street, it takes just a small amount for someone to overdose within minutes. He quote, Matthew, he says, marijuana laced with fentanyl can be extremely deadly, and to anyone who touches it, tastes it, smokes it, anything else of that nature. If it's laced with fentanyl, marijuana can be the deadliest drug there is. No, fentanyl is the most dangerous drug. Fentanyl is the most deadly drug there is. Get this, folks. The most deadly drug in history is FDA approved. No one's dying of marijuana. You can't argue that fact. Jeff Hunt, Andy Holt, since I've been reading your articles, and listen, I'm not harping on you. He even asked Andy Holt, look at this. Andy Holt, right at the end of it. Love you all. I want policy that best promotes the welfare, economic prosperity, and general safety of the residents in Tennessee. Colorado, as a sovereign state, can do as it please, and we can do as we please. Give me your thoughts, and thanks for your time. So I'm making sure I'm taking the time to give you my thoughts on this subject and just kind of go through some of the things that you pointed out here. Andy Holt, I'm yet to see it. I would love to see it. Now, I'm not saying you haven't, but I want to encourage you to look at the opioid epidemic, and I want to encourage you to do something about the opioid epidemic. And I want to encourage you, Andy Holt, and all my other Tennessee representatives, our government representatives, those in Washington, D.C., our FDA officials, our medical physicians, our population as a whole, everybody online here, I want to ask you all, help me combat this epidemic of opioid addiction. Let's combat the opioid epidemic. Let's stop the lies of the pharmaceutical industries. Let's get our government to actually penalize when drug companies lie about the safety of their drugs. And we'll do something about it. Andy, if you're truly a Christian against using drugs, the Bible doesn't say anything against marijuana or cannabis. Okay? It says don't get drunk. It doesn't say don't drink. It says don't get drunk. It says don't separate your mind from reality with drugs. All right? Marijuana, you could argue, is a plant, but you could easily argue that there are more Christian and biblical references that say that we should not be allowing people to take drugs that are made by symbols of the serpent, pharmakeia, which is witchcraft in the Greek biblical text. And that the fact, and now I'm going biblical on you, but let's go back to understanding that fentanyl and these drugs completely separate our minds from reality. What's crazy to me is even some of the quote-unquote least harmful, safest medications. Good article to read right now would be Empathy is Killed by Popular Painkiller Found in 600 Different Drugs. Acetaminophen kills empathy. Empathy, we need that, folks, to be able to realize if we're hurting someone else's feelings, if we're doing wrong by other people, so that we can feel and understand what people are going through. When we can understand the suffering that other people are going through, our empathy drives us emotionally to try and do something right for that person and help them get them out of that hole. But by taking so many of these medications, we have less and less empathy in this country right now, in the world, with people on simple acetaminophen, fever-reducing, pain-relieving medication, supposedly. Those drugs separate our emotional state, separate us from reality. And that's biblically what God was warning us against. Because if we separate our mind from reality, that is the opportunity. Again, I'm kind of getting biblical on you, folks. I hope you'll stick with me because there's plenty of science in this too. But we separate our emotional state of our mind. When we do that, we are less connected to the emotional, the innate intelligence, God. We are less connected there. And then we can harm someone else or we can harm ourselves. And we see that drugs like opioids, like fentanyl, lead to suicide or harm themselves. And yet a God-made plant, a plant that was in the wild, now we've used it for different, is safer and more effective. And again, this is not just my opinion, but here is, again, Medical Journal, Medical Marijuana Use in Oncology, the Journal of American Medical Association. Again, medical marijuana use in oncology. Let's look at what they said. Mechanisms of action, chemotherapy and pain. They said that it actually helped with brain tumors in animal studies. Anti-tumor agent. Some of the studies here, Johnson's, then examined the effects of cannabis extract preparations containing THC and CBD in 177 patients with advanced cancer and uncontrolled cancer pain despite long-term opioid use. Tens of thousands, again, people are dying from opioids, but that's our first-line defense to try and help somebody when they're in serious pain, is opioids. One of the most deadly medication or drug ever in history, legal or illegal, is that drug right there. The results showed that pain relief was superior in THC plus CBD group, with twice as many people experiencing at least a 30% reduction in pain when compared to placebo. The THC alone, that would be Dronabinol or Marinol, all these synthetic THC, synthetic. Get this, folks. The maker of fentanyl, the most deadly medication ever, drug ever in history, made Marinol and now makes synthetic THC. Yet, Yet we sit here with fentanyl makers donates big to campaigns opposing pot legalization. So fentanyl maker, the pharmaceutical company, sells the powerful painkiller fentanyl, has donated $500,000 toward defeating a ballot initiative that would make recreational use of marijuana legal under Arizona law. Illinois Attorney General Lisa Mandan, again, this is fentanyl maker donates big to campaign opposing pot legalization. I don't know, do you guys all, like, give me a thumbs up. Do you all see, like, the connections back and forth here? Like, the drug company that sells fentanyl, that is killing, like, the most deadly medication out there, that literally fentanyl prescriptions would go way down for things like cancer pain, and fentanyl was only supposed to be given to cancer patients for cancer pain. But now, Journal of American Medical Association reporting on research that showed that, CBD and THC combined, and CBD oftentimes having a superior benefit than the THC alone, that a plant, cannabis, was superior in lowering people's pain. And it worked in people where opioids wouldn't work. But how many of those people never had the opportunity to take cannabis because their doctor simply kept giving them a stronger and stronger opioid drug until those opioid drugs led to their death? I guarantee it's thousands. Thousands of people have lost their lives because our government and the medical establishment, the manufacturers, the drug companies, big pharma, pharmaceutical, pharmaceutical companies, are selling way too much fentanyl. Okay, this Attorney General in Illinois filed a lawsuit last month against the company alleging insists hawked the drug to doctors for off-label prescribing, saying the company's desire for increased, this is quote, desire for increased profits led it to disregard patients' health and push addictive opioids for non-FDA approved purposes. They put profits above patients' lives. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid significantly more potent than heroin. That can cause overdoses, especially when it's used to cut the supply of illegally sourced drugs. The musician Prince died from an accidental fentanyl overdose in April. They are now funding the campaign for profits. This would be the drug company. Profits from the sale of opioids and maybe even the improper sale of opioids. We hope that every Arizonan understands that Arizonans for responsible drug policy is now a complete misnomer. Their entire campaign is tainted by the money. Anytime an ad airs against Proposition 205, the voters should, and this article was back in 2016, September, that when proposition opposers to Proposition 205, the voters should know that it's paid for by highly suspect big pharma actors. Last year in 2011, they had one of the years in 2011 insists also sold a second product, a generic equivalent to Marinol, a synthetic version of cannabinoid THC. Advocates say the raw plant material can treat without a corporate middleman. And that's my opinion of it. If we want to reduce these fentanyl deaths because marijuana is being laced with fentanyl, let people grow their own cannabis. Simple as that. And again, I'm going to ask the question to anybody out there who wants to say that, we can't legalize marijuana, it's the gateway drug. Well, I'm sorry. They've been saying marijuana is the gateway drug, but you want to know something that history has proven true? The gateway to the worst epidemic of drug overdoses and drug deaths in American history is the doctor's front door, is your medical physician's front door. And I'm not saying the medical physician desired for you to become addicted to opioids or anybody else out there. And again, I see patients that have become addicted or dependent or going through withdrawals. They don't want that kind of reaction and urge and desire to go and take the drug again because they're having serious side effects and withdrawal effects. They don't desire that. They didn't want to be addicted. They didn't want to have a dependence there on that drug. But because of a prescription pad from their medical physician, their body had that response and reaction. So they had the response of becoming addicted to it or becoming dependent on it. All right, and there's kind of two different things. Sometimes people would say that addiction is more about a mental desire to get high, and that's when you could just call it addiction. But there are some people who become dependent on it, and they're physiologically, it's so hard for them to completely get off it, though despite them never desiring to have that type of desire for a drug and that allow a drug to have that control over their body. I'm just saying, if we want to reduce opioid deaths, listen, there's evidence to say that cannabis could do it. Medical cannabis law and opioid analgesics, overdose mortality in the United States, 1999 to 2010. Again, Journal of American Medical Association, medical cannabis laws are associated with significantly lower state-level opioid overdose mortality rates. So again, we can lower mortality rates. And what they saw is every single year after they legalized marijuana in these states, that these states saw lower and lower opioid overdose deaths. Now, there are some opponents to legalization of marijuana saying that, oh, there's more people ending up accidental ingestion, like the hotline for potential poisoning, drug poisoning, are going up. It's because people have been led to believe that if a child eats some marijuana or eats a cookie with marijuana or what are those things, the candies you eat, lollipops, different things like this, children ingest that, parents freak out because they've been led to believe it's this horrible, dangerous, deadly medication, but none of these kids are dying. We have 15, right there in the PubMeds, showing that a 15-month-old baby died because it was cuddling with its parent. Yet children have ingested, and yes, because marijuana is more readily accessible, they get increases in calls, but what do they say? Just wait it out, stay hydrated, and it'll go away. These children aren't dying from that ingestion. But there are children, by the hundreds, if not thousands, dying because of ingestion of opioids. Sasha, yes, it's synthetic THC is Marinol or the other generic names of THC. So the drug manufacturers of opioids want to suppress the ability for you and I to be able to grow our own medicine, our own cannabis. I just don't think people should rule over that. Does that make sense, Anthony? Like, do you all think that we should have a government and other individuals should rule over us as people and say that, nope, that plant that grows natural in the wild and people have been using it for generations and thousands of years, something that you could easily say God created for a purpose and we can use it for right or wrong. You know, a sword can be good, it can be used, and it's used in the Bible for good things, and it can be used for bad things. And it's within the heart of the individual that determines that. See, we need to change a heart in this nation. We don't need more legislation controlling the lives of the American people. All right, sorry, a little soapbox there. Kate, appreciate you turning in. Darlene, hey, from Kansas. I've never snow skied in Kansas, have you? No. I tell you, it was crazy. I want to tell you a little story about Kansas. When I was going out to chiropractic school out in Colorado, I went out there serving a doctor and helping a doctor out there in Colorado. And on my drive out to Colorado, I was driving through Kansas, not a vehicle in sight, nothing, far as the eye can see, nothing but highway and me. And I'm just driving on this highway, and I'm got this big old light up there ahead of me. And I drive up there, and I come up on a single tree completely engulfed in flames. I seriously pulled the car over and stopped on the side of the highway, got out, went up to the tree, and I'm like, okay, God, are you speaking to me somehow? I didn't hear him. He didn't say anything, but I was like, I see a burning bush. I'm like, what is this? It was crazy, though. I'm telling you. So that's my Kansas story. Cookie has something here. In order to unite, we need to have open minds and find common grounds. Too many are stuck on their own issue and don't realize how they all interlock. As Einstein said, the earth and this life are gifts. We need to leave it in a better condition than when it was given to us. I would agree. Good job. So I was talking to a patient today about this subject. She's talking about her and her husband, and I desire for her relationships, her life, and this is the thing, as a doctor and a teacher and somebody that wants to help my patients, we need to address every contributing factor to illness and suffering in our patients' lives. All right, that's what doctors are here to do and should be doing. All right, talking about the subject of just our nation divided, let's talk about like the Trump situation, how people are either they hate him or they love him, and then people who hate him hate people who love them. Why are we hating people? Why are we hating each other? Because we have different viewpoints. You know that if you want to say that racism, you hate racism, I do too. I hate racism. I hate that action, but you know what? You know what? I want to show love to a person, hopefully overcome them with love. But I'm telling you what, trust me, there's a 9mm in my back pocket in case love fails. If I have to defend myself, I'm not going after them. Do you get me there? Because I guarantee somebody's like, wait a minute, is he talking about like those Nazi people and everything like that? I'm like, our world is so divided. I want to show them love. I want to know where in their life they were hurt and try and overcome that and serve them. You know, that would be the best opportunity we could. But we got to stop hating each other because we have different viewpoints. It's like even relationships. Again, patient experience, relationship being harmed simply because an individual hates Trump. Why can't we as a nation, even if we don't like, talk about the actions? There are so many people I'll come across. It doesn't matter if it's Trump or whether it was Hillary or Bernie Sanders or anybody. You know what? I could find positives in each one of those people, and I could find negatives in each one of those people. And some people I felt that I found more negatives, and it steered me away from them. And I felt that I found more positives in the other individual, and I steered towards them. All right? But if we would come together as a nation and say, this is the action that I agree with, and this is the action that I'm going to encourage that our current president take to change and improve our nation, then we would be working on improving our nation rather than complaining about the people that like that individual and saying, I hate that individual because they like that individual. That just doesn't get our nation anywhere. But we see way too much of that. Cicely, again, thanks for tuning in. Lou, Big Pharma wants control of marijuana industry. You have no doubt about it. Lou is on top of this stuff. It is. Dose of Justice, ex-pharma execs. So here's a fun one for y'all. Dose of Justice, ex-pharma executives is what it means, arrested for allegedly bribing doctors to prescribe fentanyl. December 8th, 2016, several former top executives of the pharmaceutical company that sells the powerful painkiller fentanyl, the most deadly drug, FDA approved, the most deadly drug ever, illegal or legal, were arrested Thursday and accused of bribing doctors, defrauding insurance companies, and fueling America's opioid addiction crisis. Insys allegedly paid hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bribes and kickbacks to doctors who operated pain clinics in exchange for physicians prescribing the company's fentanyl product to non-cancer patients. So they took money. So there was medical physicians out there. And I know there are medical physicians that hate the action of this, that doctors in their profession have taken money, taken bribes, and then turned around and literally killed people for money. That's what's taken place with these drugs. I know that there are medical physicians that don't want to see that. I want to see more of them outspoken about that fact that it's occurring so that people in this nation, in this country, in this community can become aware of it so that we can stop allowing people to go to doctors, for which I have a pharmacist that comes in my office and gets adjusted. I help her with her health, and she tells me there are certain medical physicians in my community that the pharmacy she works at, not going to mention which one, won't even fill their prescriptions because they're pill pushers for opioids. Why doesn't those pharmacies or pharmacists just go and report the name of that medical physician to the local police station, and then the police station go in and arrest the man? If the pharmacies won't know that this doctor is a pill pusher, improperly, illegally, and should be illegally prescribing these drugs, that's fueling the worst epidemic of deaths in this nation. They should probably go in and arrest the man. He's leading, or she is leading, to the death of my community members. I disagree with that. I think he should lose his license, or she should lose their license. Do you all agree with me or not? Give me a thumbs up if you agree that if a medical physician can't even get his prescriptions filled, if a patient of his or hers can't get their prescriptions filled at a pharmacy, that the pharmacist should actually report that medical physician to the police station, and they should take his license, or at least bare minimum go in and investigate the place and shut it down until they figure out why a pharmacy won't fill those prescriptions. Several doctors reportedly received more than $100,000 as part of the scheme, and one was paid up to $275,000. They conspired, quote, conspired to mislead and defraud health insurance providers who were reluctant to approve payment for drug when it was prescribed for non-cancer patients. They contributed to the growing opioid epidemic and placed profits before patient safety, says Harold H. Shaw, special agent in charge of the FDA Boston Fields Division. Thank you. Love this guy. He is speaking my words right there. That the drug companies, opioid providers, place profit before patient safety. Insys is the maker of the fentanyl, gained notoriety recently for bankrolling the campaign against medical marijuana legislation in Arizona during the November election. The company, which is developing a synthetic marijuana painkiller, contributed $500,000 to help defeat a ballot initiative that would have allowed recreational marijuana sales in the state. So here's something to think about if you're a representative and other people. And I know you need money for campaigns, but the reality is if you're taking money from Insys and pharmaceutical companies, you are taking money from the most corrupt organizations in the world. You're taking money, if you're taking money from the maker of fentanyl, you're taking money from a drug company that has lied and bribed doctors to go out and get people addicted, sell their drugs for profits, disregarded the safety of patients, killed people for profits, and if you accept money from them, you are accepting money from a murderer. That's what you're doing. Strong words, I know it. Anthony, is there any other? Anthony's my cameraman. He's a great guy. So I always like bounce. Is there any, does that make sense to everybody? Like literally, if they're accepting money from companies, pharmaceutical industries, who are lying and bribing doctors with money to get them to sell their drugs that they know are going to kill people, then I'm sorry, that's a form of murder to me. So they're accepting money for their campaigns from murderers. Andy, I hope you are not. Andy Holt, I hope you are not. You wanted my opinion, you want my thoughts? You better not be accepting money from the pharmaceutical industry, 100%. So let's break down Andy's Facebook post here. Someone has to serve, and I'm not harping on Andy. I'm just hoping he doesn't have his hand, or I hope the pharmaceutical industry doesn't have their hands in his back pocket. Someone has to serve as a sensible voice of reason. This dangerous and economically disenfranchising drug, he's talking about marijuana here. That's what he says about it. Legalization of marijuana is the education, funding, general economic, and judicial reform solution that we have been needing, saying that it's the money, that we'll get money and taxes from this. To quote the article, Dr. Harry Bull, the superintendent of Cherry Creek Schools, one of the largest school districts in the state, which would be the state of Colorado. So far, he says, this superintendent says, so far, the only thing that legalization of marijuana has brought to our schools has been marijuana. Okay, what I would ask then is if the state of Colorado taxed marijuana and promised to give that money to the schools, then I would go ask your government representatives where that money went. Because if they promised you tax, Colorado sold a lot of marijuana. Where'd all that money go? If you're saying it hasn't entered the schools, just go ask your representatives then. That's not a problem with the marijuana. And the reality is you've got kids in your school overdosing on opioids, right? How many kids have died from marijuana? I guarantee you the superintendent could find children and know that children have died from opioids, but yet not a single one has died from marijuana. He goes after liberalism, Andy does. I'm not even going to go there. Law enforcement related expenditures, which no doubt are higher. Well, maybe I will. He's saying that it's all for the children is where he says is as old as liberalism itself. He says that liberals, and I'm not a liberal, I'm like a Tea Party guy. You know, I'm like, listen, I want less government. I want more freedom for the people. I want to be able to live my own life and make my own choices, serve people, not give all my money to the government so that I can use that money to actually go and buy a meal and sit down to lunch or dinner with somebody who's actually needing money and assistance. I literally, what do I do when I drive through Kroger? If I see somebody standing out there asking for money, I don't normally give money. I will on times when my heart is pulled in that direction and I feel comfortable with giving money. What do? I go, here's a huge bottle of water. I want to make sure you have water on a hot day in Tennessee, and then I want to buy maybe a bag of apples. Here's a bag of apples, or I'll get them canned food they can just pop open and eat. And I know canned food isn't the healthiest thing, so give me a break, folks. I'm just trying to help them. I needed something. But a lot of times I'll give them fruits and vegetables and things like that that are somewhat can last in the heat out here. So, but law enforcement related expenditures, which no doubt are higher, you don't give evidence for that, but he says law enforcement related expenditures, which no doubt are higher, so he's saying we can't legalize it because it actually increased law enforcement. Then I would ask, well, if it's a legal plant, then why are we spending law enforcement dollars on it? If it's legal, we shouldn't be doing anything about it. Legalize it, you do away with all the legal dollars or the law enforcement dollars. Black market sales hadn't gone down. The reality is you should just, it's a plant, folks. Just give, anybody can grow it, anybody, so that you don't even have to buy it from anybody. Garden it yourself. Or make that the rule. You know what? Garden it yourself. And you can't sell it. According to the Colorado Department of Public Health, I know people are thinking I'm crazy. I know in the future people are going to be like, this guy's crazy. He's all about marijuana. He's just a pothead. I'm not. I don't smoke. I didn't inhale, I swear. When that Clinton said I didn't inhale, yeah. Then why were you smoking it? Like, come on. According to the Colorado Department of Public Safety, arrests in Colorado of Black and Latino youth for marijuana possession have increased 58 and 29% respectively after legalization. This means that Black and Latino youth are being arrested more for marijuana possession after it became legal. Again, why are we arresting people for a legal plant for which kids aren't dying from when we're sitting here with opioids and fentanyl and all these deadly medications out there that kids are getting their hands on? Because if a child wants to get high, you know what? I would much rather my child get high on marijuana than go and get opioids from his buddy who twisted their ankle and now has a 60 oxycodone. Would you rather your child, like seriously, folks, think about that. We need to teach morals and ethics into our next generation, into our children. We can't say, you know what, I'm not going to allow you to ever get high. I'm not going to ever allow you to take a drink. You know what, I'm going to teach them to be responsible for their own lives and be a server and a good person, somebody that wants to help other people. And I'm going to tell them, please don't do that. But the reality is, if I had to choose, which one would you choose? Would you rather your child, Andy, think about it, would you rather a child accidentally ingest marijuana or accidentally ingest fentanyl? Which one? And which one is legal? Which one are you fighting against? It says, I want your opinion on the subject. Campaigns, law enforcement, health treatment, addiction recovery, and preventive work is an unknown cost to date. Marijuana devastated Colorado. Don't legalize it nationally. People are in danger. This is a dangerous drug, this Jeff Hunt, okay? And I'm just talking, this is Jeff Hunt. I think we should have communication and conversation. That's why I wanted to do this entire show. So I'm just having communication, conversation about this subject because I want people to logically think about this. So that you see the good in this plant, does access to medical marijuana reduce opioid deaths? Let's look at the 2014 study, again from the Journal of American Medical Association, which showed that they couldn't prove causation, but yet what did we see in states that legalized medical marijuana and even recreational use marijuana? We saw that opioid overdoses, 25% lower rates of death from opioid overdoses than other states. The apparent effect grew over time, a 20% lower rate of opioid deaths in the laws first year, 24% in the third, and 33% in the sixth. Researchers Colleen Berry and John Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health and her colleagues reported in the Journal of American Medical Association in 2010. There were 1,729 fewer such deaths than expected in medical marijuana states. So here's the reality. Is it the personality? And we just need to take note from there. What is it in those states that legalize marijuana that is driving the opioid epidemic down in that state? We need to figure that out. A 2015 study drilled down the different aspects of medical marijuana or marijuana laws. Medical marijuana dispensaries were associated with a 16% and possibly as high as a 31% decrease in opioid overdose deaths, especially among men compared to states without dispensaries. Folks, if we think about it, I know personally a family whose lives have been completely altered by this opioid epidemic. I have a friend whose brother is back in rehab again for God knows how many times because of the addiction to opioids, which he was given because of cancer pain, which again, I can go here now to the Journal of American Medical Association again and say that he should have been given marijuana. He should have been given THC and cannabinoids, a plant, and would have been better off and safer and possibly would have saved this family from this devastating issue that they now have to deal with, watching a family member in the depths of just turmoil with an addiction to opioids. They didn't want that. He was a child suffering with cancer and had to be given that drug to reduce his pain. He has a right to pain relief, but he had a right to a better pain reliever, which is marijuana, which is cannabis. But now, because of the way our medical system works and creating a false idea that cannabis is this deadly and destructive drug, it can be, but it's far less risk and it doesn't have the power to cause addiction like opioids do. And their other son smokes marijuana. Going through college, no problem. Am I going to turn him in? No. He's in a legal state. So think about that, folks. One son, given opioids, can't maintain a job, can't live his own life, dependent on tax dollars, dependent on assistance, going to drug rehab facilities. Literally, who knows what he goes through, but the family in tears all the time because of this son given a prescription drug versus a son over here with no abnormal or bad outcomes occurring in his life, and he smokes marijuana. Right there, you can see the differences. Melinda, speaking the truth, amen. Darlene, what are your favorite 5 herb plants that you use for medicine? I like that. Okay, let's change it. Let me grab a couple of them over here. I'll tell you, I've been big on medicinal mushrooms. So I have turkey tail mushroom, which is going to dust right here right now. But so I had turkey tail mushroom in there. Well, that's one of my favorite because it has an immune stimulating, immune boosting effect. I would say when I'm studying it right now, I think I'm really excited at seeing what medicinal cannabis. Now I say cannabis because I believe and I see a lot that there is superior health benefits, I feel, from using low THC cannabis. So not full-blown what we would call marijuana and not just simply industrial hemp. If we were using cannabinoids from cannabis, if we were using those, I think that herb is fantastic. I have gone through the legal system to be able to acquire a license to be able to grow cannabis. So I grow industrial hemp, and I can juice it. I can make hemp milk. I can make and take the hemp seeds for health, for benefits for me and my family. Right now, I'm really excited about passion flower. I go time and time again, so I don't have necessarily 5 herbs. So Darlene, it's tough to say what are my 5 favorite herbs. I would say it's what conditions are people dealing with make up my favorite herbs. I'll tell you, turmeric Turmeric's one of my favorite herbs because of its fantastic health benefits. So I would highly recommend people consuming turmeric on a regular basis. Black pepper enhances the medicinal properties of of turmeric. There's now evidence to say that the combination of cannabinoids or cannabis or hemp oil with turmeric could have amazing anti-cancer effects, anti-inflammatory effects. You look at the conditions like Alzheimer's disease, they've shown potential for cannabis to help reverse Alzheimer's and improve cognitive function on the Alzheimer's patients. And you've seen studies on patients where they completely reversed, and family members or the patient with Alzheimer's, the individual with Alzheimer's disease, was able to identify and recognize his family members again or her family members again after a year of taking around 750 milligrams a day of turmeric with black pepper, and because again it increases the bioavailability, or with fat, bioavailability goes up, or the absorption rate goes up of turmeric, and then with black pepper it increases or decreases the liver's metabolism of turmeric, and thus increases the concentration of turmeric within the body. And that's how you get the therapeutic benefits there in both cancer and in Alzheimer's. So, I mean, there's so many. I love milk thistle because it's an amazing herb for our liver. It's cleansing and help regenerate liver damage from drug use or hepatitis. You've got the hepatitis C medication out there, $1,000 a pill, yet milk thistle is superior in its benefits for it. So I love that. So every seed, could I like go out there and find a seed which has got like hundreds of seeds in it, or one flower of milk thistle and take it and sell each seed for $1,000? It's got superior benefits to the drug. It's the most well-established herb for the liver. Combine that with dandelion root and you've got a fantastic herbal concoction there that can benefit and regenerate the liver. So our liver is very important. So Darlene, I love milk thistle. I think the liver is something we desperately need to take care of in this day and age with the amount of toxins in this unit in our communities, in our environment. So that makes milk thistle way up there. I think dandelion, because it's so versatile, it's so beneficial, so medicinal for many different things, and it grows easily everywhere. So passion flower is one of my favorite ones right now in Tennessee. Passion flower, it's a vine, beautiful flower on it. It's supposed to represent the passion of Christ and its beauty of this flower. But the reality is passion flower is fantastic because it actually helps with epilepsy, can help with insomnia, can help with depression, all sorts of things can this passion flower do. So you've got herbs out there for many different things. So I guess I don't really have 5 favorite ones. I have many different ones. I love mushrooms because they're immune enhancing benefits. You got lion's mane mushroom that actually helps with the regeneration of nerve cells. So if you combine, I bet you if we would combine cannabis, turmeric, and lion's mane, we've got a phenomenal herbal remedy there for people with cognitive or neurological disorders. So, Darlene, oh my God, someone here just got robbed. This guy asked for money on the side of the road. Okay, well, sorry about that. That's horrible. Cookie, what can you do if you have pain if you don't have cannabis available to you? That would be, so I have a video on that. Pain relieving lettuce is another one of my favorite herbs because there's different types of pain relieving lettuces, or it's basically looks like a combination of like milk thistle, prickly lettuce, pain relieving lettuce, opioid lettuce. If you go on my YouTube channel, Cookie, you'll find that there's a pain relieving lettuce, and I actually have some of it over here dried. So I just kind of dry some herbs and stuff that I normally keep on hand, and I put out here so people can take a look at them. So prickly lettuce has lactocarium in it, and that is actually has a similar effect to opium. They used to call it poor man's opium. It's a fantastic pain reliever. When you look at the differences between using lactocarium in its concentrated form, so the sap dried, you'll actually find that pain relieving lettuce, opioid lettuce as a nickname for it, but it doesn't have addictive properties. Now somebody could become addicted to anything because that's kind of a mindset. People could be dependent on it. If they become dependent on it, they would become dependent on it because they want to stay out of pain. But I would ask them to seek out why they were in pain in the first place. Do they need a chiropractor? What do they need to do to heal, to get out of pain? Let's seek that first and then rely on herbs or medicines to relieve the symptoms of a health condition or pain. So, but that's one that I highly recommend. Turmeric is phenomenal for inflammatory, even some neuropathy pain. So again, I would combine turmeric, prickly lettuce, or lactarium, or pain-relieving opioid lettuce. So cookie, hopefully that helps you out there. As far as using, then you could use, right now, passion flower, because it has a slight sedative effect, and can help with anxiety, can help with depression, and can help with muscle spasms. So you could use the combination of wild lettuce with passion flower and get your pain reliever and your muscle relaxer at the same time. Rachel, I appreciate you tuning in. Ashley, thank you for your integrity. I appreciate you saying that I have integrity. I try my best. Anthony, pain relieving lettuce, got it online. That's you. That's my camera guy. I just read his name. That's funny. All right, back to it. I appreciate it. I want to have more conversations with y'all, and I appreciate this. I know that this may be a subject that's not always everybody wants to talk about, but I think our country needs to. So I want to go through this again. Jeff Hunt saying, sad moment in our nation's embrace of a drug that will have generational consequences. Jeff, I just want to ask, like, as a biblical teacher, supposedly, I want to sit down with you. I want to learn from you because you're probably a well-informed individual. You probably have a great education and information. But I just don't get where Christians can stand there and say that a God-made plant. If you're a Christian, you believe in God. If you believe in God, He made everything on this earth. God made everything on this earth. Then did He say, okay, I'm going to make everything in the Garden of Eden and everything on this world, and it's for you, and it has a purpose, but I don't want you to touch that one. Did God say, was the tree in the middle of, Anthony, did I read the Bible wrong maybe? It was the cannabis plant actually, well, it couldn't be because it was like a fruit. So cannabis doesn't have a fruit. So I'm pretty sure that the only plant that God said we couldn't eat and use wasn't cannabis. So I'm really wondering where the Christian community can stand there and say that God doesn't want us to separate our minds from reality, so the use of that plant in the wrong ways could be something that you could say is biblically against, but God didn't say, don't eat of that. He didn't, all right? So that's kind of the way I see it. Does anybody else, now some people don't want to maybe not let other people in the stream here know that you're a Christian, but hopefully you're willing to let that out there. Like, does anybody else on a Christian stance, whether it's in YouTube in the future, whether it's locally on television, email me, show me where the Bible really talks about how we shouldn't be using and consuming cannabis at all. Jesus made water into wine, okay? So He was okay with people drinking. And if you ran out of wine, trust me, they were probably drunk. Because you usually don't run out of wine unless you're actually getting drunk. So Jesus was at a party where people were getting drunk, and yet He still made them more to drink. So the reality is it's really hard to question. There's some cool, crazy things in the Bible. Talking about the signs of the Bible and stuff here, talking about the eclipse. Now that's freaky, crazy kind of stuff there. The moon, the stars, and the sun, the moon, and the stars are made for signs, not for time, day, night. Yep. Marijuana-related traffic. I'm all over the place again. My squirrel is going nuts here today. Rachel, again, how do you go about getting a license for cannabis? State of Tennessee, you have to go through Department of Agriculture, and then you get a license for industrial hemp growing, and that's how we went through it. I don't have all the website lines and stuff like that, and then it's a pilot program for research looking at it, and we're going through that process. We go through that process. My plants didn't do the greatest. Again, it was a row crop field before, so it stinks, but I totally learned how I'm going to grow it next year to grow it better. I did promise someone on my Facebook page, if you guys want questions answered specifically, you want me to prepare for those questions, you have two options, because I have people that ask for consultations. They'll call my office, or they'll contact us through thewilddoc.com, the website, and they'll ask for consultations. If you want a consultation one-on-one directly, talking about your health, talking about what you want to achieve with your health, it doesn't matter what you have, if you feel you want my help, I'm willing to help. All right, those consultations are paid, so there would be a cost for that. But you can also go through the wilddoc.com and submit questions there that we put in a question bank that when we get the opportunity, I will answer, and I'm going to do more of that regularly because I want to know what you want to learn about. What are the health subjects you want to learn about? Because I got a ton of information. It doesn't matter whether it's ADHD, whether it's autism, whether it's allergies, whether it's asthma, whether it's Alzheimer's disease. Now that's just the A's, but I literally have alphabetical order of almost every single health condition that affect a significant number of the population. Now there's some that we seem like we are seeing more and more weird neurological health conditions, autoimmune conditions coming about this day and age, and I know why, it's vaccines, but the reality is we see all of these things occurring. And but if you want questions answered there at no cost, you can submit those questions and just let us know that you would like me to speak on that subject in the future. And again, that's through the wilddoc.com. Anthony, do you have the direct links for that? Be able to post that on the live stream here. Hi there, I'm from Australia and just watched your ear infection and antibiotic video. So this would be the last one. A recap of this really quickly. The antibiotic course has had its day. British Medical Journal medical physicians are saying stop completing the entire course of your antibiotics because we are driving the antibiotic resistant bacterial epidemic by prescribing antibiotics for too long and allowing people to continue on with consuming that drug even after they feel well. So the research has now been done, they are saying, and the research never was done in the past, yet it was a fallacy that doctors recommend you complete the course because they feared that without completing the course, if you only took the antibiotic till you felt well, doctors and medical officials assumed, and again you understand what happens when you assume something like this. Well, they did, and it ends up they did make a blank out of you and me, mainly themselves because I just don't take antibiotics. But the reality is they are now calling for health officials. They should publicly and actively state that this was not evidence-based and was incorrect, to recommend that people continue on with antibiotics after they feel well. Because the longer we expose bacteria in our bodies, so the longer we take an antibiotic, the more likely we are to develop, or the bacteria in our systems are to develop antibiotic resistance, and that is fueling the epidemic of antibiotic-resistant superbugs. So, great article there. So that's where she's coming from. We talked about ear infections, those types of things. So she's talking about that. So you can go back and watch that video from last week, and it'll be on the wilddoc.com. My husband, myself, and my 2 kids eat organic. We use homeopathy, essential oils all the time, and we don't vaccinate. I never go to the doctor, but after 3 weeks of excruciating pain and stress from a terrible ear infection, I went to the doctor. He prescribed me amoxicillin, which I decided not to take straight away. But days after, I then got pus filling up in my ear, and it's still in there and slightly in the other one. Only halfway through taking the antibiotics, as much as I didn't want to take them, and the pain settled in somewhat, but there's still a lot of pus in there. I'm taking probiotics each night also. Should I stop the course of antibiotics? I would feel yes. Personally, I wouldn't take the antibiotic. I can't speak for you. I can't imagine the pain you're going through. I had an ear infection when I was little, and they hurt like the dickens. I'm telling you what, that's an old saying my grandpa had. I don't know what it means. So, it sounds kind of funny, though. Hurts like the dickens. So my grandpa always said, but here's the reality. If you're having an ear infection for that long, something underneath the surface is going on. So again, like I talked about last week, I highly, at this point, if you're eating organics, if you're using essential oils, now if you're overusing essential oils, you could in essence disturb and disrupt the bacterial microflora on our body or in our body, because oils are concentrated and they can have an effect on the microflora. So we need to know how and when and where and all the details around essential oils. So know that. But the reality is, if you're filling up with pus, your body's not actually draining that area of your body properly, so there's a lymph node issue, I can guarantee it. So more than likely you have upper cervical misalignment. So you need to get that checked. Because if your body's not overcoming it, we need to figure out why is it not overcoming. Because again, just taking the antibiotic may feel better, because a viral infection may be one of the things that trigger it, but ultimately the infection would only occur and bacteria would build up in there if our body couldn't actually drain that area, the fluid away from, or infection away from that area. So that's why pus and buildup would build up in that region. So we need to see why that is, and probably the number one cause of that is spinal misalignments of the upper cervical spine. So I hope that helps you. I'm not going to mention the name since I didn't get permission, but I wanted to answer this thoroughly. I only started taking them because 3 weeks was getting too much. 2 weeks ago, I had a Bowen done with a lymph drainage. Should I do this again? Yes, I would work on draining the lymphs again, but I would get an adjustment to the upper cervical spine because the normal range of motion in the cervical spine, you can do lymph drainage techniques and massage to drain the lymph nodes, but if you're not actively working on the upper cervical spine and correcting that if it is misaligned. So if the upper cervical is misaligned, it doesn't matter how many times you drain the lymph nodes and work on those, that will help temporarily, but the lymph nodes drain because of spinal range of motion. Movement of the spine is essential and necessary for lymph drainage of every part of our body. They've done studies in hospitals with people with lymphedema, and chiropractic adjustments can help with that. They've shown it in pneumonia patients that they actually recover from pneumonia much faster if they're being adjusted. So it boosts our immune system, it helps our lymph nodes drain, it does so many wonderful things because it's removing interference to our nervous system. So I hope that helps you. To the individual that submitted that question, actually submit it through Facebook, but I would ask that you submit questions through thewilddoc.com. Ashley, I don't agree with a lot of the crap this guy propagates, but one thing I agree on is the use of medical marijuana. Well, thank you, Ashley. I appreciate she actually listened to what I was saying. She actually listened to the fact that we should find common ground on some things. Now I'd ask, what don't you agree with? And I'll figure out how I can help you understand why you should agree with it, right? We'll have a solid conversation. All right, Cookie, we use garlic crushed in olive oil for ear infections. I'm back and forth on that. I believe in consumption of certain things. I'm not sure I'm back and forth on putting oil into the ear, as that's not a natural manner. Now, for last resort, making sure that you can drain it. But if you already have a problem with drainage, you could get things in there and then have other problems. So, Darlene, I never even thought of that, Cookie. Such a good idea. So I appreciate the conversations on there. Going back to the subject, Anthony, how we doing on time? We're over time. Okay. Well, then that's probably why Anna Christine Brown joined in. She's probably like, when's my husband getting home? So, medical marijuana related traffic deaths, poison control calls, emergency room visits, the marijuana related traffic deaths, poison control calls. Again, the poison control calls are because they fear that the ingestion of marijuana would cause harm, but yet when it comes down to it, no one's dying of that, but there are thousands of people dying of opioids. The cost of marijuana legalization and public awareness campaigns, law enforcement, healthcare, treatment, addiction recovery, and preventive work is an unknown cost to date. Yet, this individual, Jeff Hunt, Jeff Hunt. So Jeff, I would just ask, you know what? We know the cost of the opioid epidemic, which is the greatest cost in terms of addiction in history. Senator Borker stated his reasons for legalization of marijuana is to reduce the marijuana arrests happening to so much in our country, targeting certain communities, poor communities, minority communities. This means that Black and Latino youth are being arrested more for marijuana possession after it became legal. Again, why are we arresting people for a legal plant? A plant. Yet we're not arresting doctors and putting them literally in life in prison for lying about the safety and bribing doctors with hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's my last thought. Like, so you're saying you're going to, because a child or teenager is smoking pot, you're going to arrest them, possibly ruin their high school years and their life by giving them a felony, and yet the government, feds found Pfizer too big to nail. Remember that article, folks? Yet we allow pharmaceutical executives to bribe medical physicians into overprescribing drugs that then lead to the death of thousands of people. They lie about the safety of their drugs, and we're not putting those people in jail for the rest of their lives. No, we allow shell companies to plead guilty and individuals to continue to work in this realm of pharmaceutical industry, yet let's punish the teenager for smoking pot. Yet we don't put pharmaceutical reps and doctors who took that money. They should all be in jail for the rest of their life because they led to the death, right? That's murder. So I don't know. I do believe in forgiveness, so you know what? They could get on parole. I'd be okay with that as long as they don't have the opportunity to sell any more drugs. That would be my opinion on that one. So I appreciate everybody tuning in here. Cookie, yes, our chiropractor eliminated my son's recurrent ear infections. Yes, Cookie. I haven't had the use of garlic oil on him since he started getting adjusted. Awesome, Cookie. So glad to hear that. So that's what I'm talking about. Get to the root causes. Anthony's got it on there, the website there. Again, you can submit questions through that. And Anthony, it's not the Wild Doc Gmail account. There's a website link. There has to be. So we need to check on that. So again, I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Make sure you share the information if you liked it, if you agree with it, like Ashley does. Ashley, do email me. I would love to know that, just to have a conversation, not back and forth necessarily on you, but I don't agree with a lot of the crap this guy propagates. But one thing I do agree on is the use of medical marijuana. I would like to know and understand what are the things that you don't agree on. I'm just curious about that, but I do appreciate you tuning in and sharing your thoughts and sentiments with me. All right, babe, talk to my wife on that one. I'll be home in a minute. Bye-bye. Hey everybody, I'm the Wild Doc, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you hop on over to thewilddoc.com. Subscribe there for our newsletter and email campaign. Join in the conversation on Facebook, and let's transform the world by unleashing the power of natural healing.